Hey, this is Frank. You're listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. Do you ever feel like you have friends who sometimes just don't get each other? This is a podcast that I recorded with two of my friends, Jake and Noah. We find out the hard ways we struggle to communicate better and sometimes succeed, but sometimes not. For years, the three of us have talked about communication and how it's sometimes easier said than done. Even when we're trying to be understanding, our well-meaning intentions often get lost in translation. We decided to share these conversations with the world. Join us as we find out what happens when three friends try to learn how to really talk to each other.
Literally is the only word in the dictionary, I believe, that is defined both as what it means and as its exact opposite.
Can you use them in a sentence?
Well, the first definition is in literal manner or sense, exactly. The second, informal use, is used for emphasis or to express strong feeling while not being literally true. That is the exact opposite of literally.
Yeah.
Uses of literally over time, back in 1800.
Wait, what about uses of literarily?
Well, let's type in another syllable.
Literarily.
Literarily. No, literally.
Literarily.
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 Literarily definition in a way that relates to literature.
Oh, yeah. Says that.
Literarily, how understanding Bible genres transforms Bible study.
Literarily has a 53 out of 100 SEO difficulty.
How many different Bible genres are there?
It's not a brand query yet, but it could be if you want to make it your brand.
Literarily. Could we remove a couple of consonants or vowels?
What is the difference between literally and literarily? That's the first people also ask.
You know what's really interesting is
Did you search for that by chance?
Literarily?
Literarily versus literally.
No.
Literarily goes deeper than literally because the former is associated with deeper information gained from books or literature, while the latter is simply a metaphor meaning the exact or face value interpretation of something being said. This is a real word? Is it?
It's a real word, literarily. Yeah. Jake read the definition and everything.
Not from a reputable source. It's from Cambridge University.
This is what we call the generative aspect of language. It's very creative and self-potentiating. You know what I always did? I always said purposefully whenever I meant purposely because I thought people were being lazy and not adding the extra syllable. But if you look up the difference, purposely means on purpose. Purposefully means full of purpose. I went around saying stuff on purpose, but was full of purpose. But I did it on accident. That sounded legitimately like a laugh track.
Yeah. It felt like one too.
What's next on the Pontificating Platypus podcast?
What kind of topics you guys got in mind for today?
I think I'm probably going to be a digital nomad soon.
I think so too.
Relatively soon.
How soon?
Within the next year, for sure.
Oh, I think so too.
What's that look like for you?
I don't know. I haven't had enough time to really dig in and research things enough. But Amy and I were talking about moving to Colombia because they have a really good, it's like a 2-year digital nomad visa. And it's still pretty close to home for her. But now we're talking about possibly doing an actual nomadic thing and moving around every 3 to 6 months as we feel, at least to start within Latin America.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. I think I bring this up. I just edited that podcast we did on
some weeks ago.
Yeah, it was the one on having fun, play.
Oh, yeah.
I thought a lot about that, this moving and what Amy does for me, which I talked about in that podcast. And I was kind of wondering if we should try to have fun once a week for a while as an experiment. Like do something ridiculous that we wouldn't normally do.
I like fun.
And by ridiculous, it doesn't have to let's go paintballing or something. Just something that we wouldn't normally go, hey, let's go do that thing. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as bowling a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of fun. I think fun is good, and I don't do it enough.
I think you guys should be travel vloggers.
We're talking about, I think we'll probably at least give it a shot. If we're going to be together in some foreign place, both of us anyway.
Yeah.
It has some sort of built-in story to it.
Well, I think like even if you weren't a travel vlogger or you just lived in the same place, you would have a good vlog just between your language differences, energy differences. And if you also were experiencing the world together, so it seems like really good. A lot of people would watch it, I think.
Yeah, I think we'll do it. At least as I said to Jake today, it's worth at least trying it. If it never goes anywhere, then we just record it ourselves.
Yeah. I think just publish it, man.
There's no reason not to. I mean, you're going to be doing stuff. Might as well bring people along. Have fun with it.
What are you guys doing? What does the future look like for you guys the next couple of years?
Jake, would you like to go first?
No. So, what does the next couple of years look like for me? I mean, right now, I just kind of restarted my whole life. And I'm having a lot of fun with getting to know myself. Like that has been kind of the focus of the last year or so. And it's thrilling in so many ways. I keep being surprised by life. I keep being surprised by new revelations. And I mean, I feel so much like contentment where I'm at, which is so different than the person I've been who has always been trying to do something else. And that guy has always been miserable at the inability to make that happen. So it's weird because, I mean, if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of just like looking to settle into this place, take it easy, keep doing what I'm doing, explore little opportunities, get to know new people, have lots of conversations, and watch my son grow up. Like, I'm so freaking happy with that.
What's it mean to know yourself?
Right now, it feels like openness to all the things that I didn't allow myself to believe before. There were these roles that I had to play or believed that I had to play. There were these responsibilities that I had, and I wasn't allowing myself to be all of myself. It was like I was putting up blinders so that I didn't have to experience the pain of making that decision over and over to not allow myself to have what I wanted or needed. And now that's no longer true. So a desire or something like that would pop up before in my past, and I would immediately shut it down. That was like a trigger for this defensive response. No, you can't do that. Don't be that. And now it's a trigger for exploration. It's like, maybe I do like trying this thing or that thing or whatever. It's weird. It's all these things that were sort of desensitized for me that are coming back to life.
Yeah, I agree. I think I went through and am going through a similar situation. I totally agree. Do you feel the same way? We've all kind of got at least parallel stories for sure. But just thinking about even, today we worked out and I mentioned I took my bike in to get tuned up. Mm-hmm. And I brought up this bike that I almost bought however many years ago that was, 10 years ago or something. and wishing that I would have paid an extra $200 for a bike that I still remember riding better than the one that I own. But what I'm getting at is that guy was in a position where I had someone to take care of. I didn't make nearly as much money as I do now. You know, we make decisions based on who we think we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get older, I think you learn you didn't really need to make that decision. I mean, a $200 more 10 years ago wouldn't have probably changed anything in my life. This isn't a money conversation. It's a decision conversation. It's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now here I am looking at moving out of the country. Not just moving out of the country, but moving around with someone I met across the world. And none of that feels that scary to me anymore. And it also doesn't feel like I have to make a particular decision in that.
Yeah, there's a freedom there, right? Do you feel anything like that?
You're listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. In these episodes, we're learning. We don't know what we're doing yet, and sometimes it shows. We think there's beauty in being a beginner, and we're learning from them, so we publish them. So thanks for listening, and rest assured that there will be better Unbecoming Platypus podcasts ahead. Yeah.
What'd that look like for you?
This is my area of expertise, you know?
It is. You are the best person at
personal sharing.
Yeah. What was the thing that popped up in your head when you said yeah?
Just I don't know, individual decision making in general.
As opposed to?
Like, I just was like, oh, what are the things I use to make decisions? Yeah, certainly. I don't have any. I try to take preconceived beliefs out of the picture, for sure.
What were your preconceived beliefs before?
Tons of them. I still have a lot.
Yeah.
Well, when I look at you right now,
mm-hmm.
In this current time we're in,
yeah,
you're going through a lot of change, maybe philosophically or belief-wise, possibly.
Sure.
You've decided to be more social. You're putting yourself out there more as part of the reason that we're doing this.
Right.
But you're also active on social media. You're gaining a following. I mean, all of this is very different from the Frank that I've known.
Yeah.
But it feels more free in a lot of ways. Do you feel that, or does it feel restricting?
I don't think it's restricting. I think I see a lot of despair in the world, and I used to have a lot of despair, and there's a path out of it. So I'm more willing to share about that, I think. Something like that, maybe.
So sort of like about being an example of some sort.
Yeah, maybe an example or inspiration, or I don't know. Yeah, I think it's really just like the do what you think is cool conversation. I just think more people need to hear that idea. That is the secret to all of us flourishing well together, I think. Even when I think back about the brokenness and all the things I saw as a paramedic, there's almost as cool of response in communities, and seeing each other help each other out, and the uniqueness of weird addiction counselors and trauma counselors and stuff, these people who've gone through these horrible things, but now they're prime ideal resources to help and love someone. Just seeing all these things flourish together, I just want to encourage the world to just do what, follow your heart. It's literally, if you like horses, go take care of horses. The world will be better.
And so what's it doing for you? like sharing these things, sharing the ideas, putting it out there, that change in you, what's it doing for you? Mentally, emotionally, whatever, anything.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a useful endeavor. It's like meaningful work, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that's encouraging to me.
I just like you share things even with like our friend group more often about these things that you're doing. It just feels like there's an excitement there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm living life instead of on the sidelines watching it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to describe it for me as well. It's like, I feel like I started this journey toward like self-discovery and pushing sort of inward quite a while ago, but over the last year almost exactly, it has been like just revelation after revelation of all these things, kind of all this baggage, like stripping off, and all these societal requirements. And society can be so many different things. I mean, it started out with my family needed me to be this, my church needed me to be that, my significant other needed me to be this, my child needed me to be that. And I mean, my child still needs me to be some things, but ultimately, what's really cool is that my child needs me to be the healthiest version of myself, doing what I think is cool. And when I, fill that cup, I can then pour it out and give him what he needs. Those other groups, the things that I believed that they needed me to be, they probably never did.
Mm-hmm.
They probably, that was probably something that happened in my own mind that made me believe I had to be a certain way or I would not be accepted. There's this very sort of adaptive trait that we want to be accepted in our social group. But sometimes it leads us to believe that we need to be something other than who we are. And the result is we estrange ourselves from who we are at our core. And so that's what I mean when I say, I feel like I'm getting to know this person. Like I was estranged from them. And it's like sitting across the table and being like, hey, what do you want to do today? What are you feeling right now? What is the reality here? Instead of tailoring this to be someone I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that what happened earlier in the year was very much like an acknowledgement of that internally. And I feel like what I'm doing at this phase in my life is taking that internal knowledge and turning it into external action and trying to embody the person that I've learned myself to be. And it's awkward at times. I find myself like struggling to express emotions in a way that is actually productive because I squelched them. I pushed them away for so long that I didn't develop a vocabulary or a language for expressing these things. So they come out clumsy and awkward. And, it's all part of it. Just sort of embracing that, saying, I acknowledge that I'm not doing this perfectly, but thank you for the patience, thank you for the love that you guys give me. And just, I'm doing my best. Thanks for tagging along while I'm doing it. It's been interesting.
What was the catalyst for you for all of this stuff you're doing now?
I think sort of money changed a lot, like recently in the world, and like my view of it, which I think probably would have changed either way. But at the end of last year, I had the opportunity to like do a contract renewal that would up my pay a whole bunch, and I just couldn't get. Like, I don't want that life anymore, so I couldn't get myself to do it. And so I was just like, because these ideas have been developing a lot in me that people should do what they think is cool. It makes the world better. And I was like, if you're going to like walk around and say that all the time, you might do it yourself. Do it instead of like plan it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been changing a lot and time doesn't make sense. 5 years, 6 years. I don't know what year it was. But, I went through divorce, and that's the thing that set me off trying to figure out who I was. What did I want,
Yeah.
And for several years now, I've really wanted to travel. I started learning Spanish. I started trying to talk to people in other countries, that sort of thing. And it still doesn't feel like this thing that I want, if that makes sense. I want it, but it doesn't feel like I ever stepped into being that person. It's just become a part of me. Does that make sense? I don't know how to put into words what I'm actually thinking. But it wasn't like something I set out to do.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
It's the little decisions, like one after another, that add up to making you that different person, though. I mean, it wasn't like one grand gesture, but...
Yeah. Well, I still, like, when I think about traveling around with Amy, like actually doing that, traveling around the world, it's really exciting. And there was a time in my life that I despised the thought of travel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy to me. To any time that I talk to her about that, I'm just like, yes, I got to go now. This is the thing I want to go do.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it doesn't even feel like a thing, is what I'm really getting at. It doesn't even feel like a thing. It just feels like life.
But you set yourself up for that. I mean, number one, I think it's very interesting that, there was a huge alteration in consciousness over the last few years with a global pandemic that kept us all inside. You start looking at the world differently. Things start to feel a little bit more precarious. Like, it makes you look at what's important. People have talked about this a lot, but right at the beginning of that, I lost my job, and Noah was like, hey, I was going to hire somebody to, renovate my bathroom. Jake, why don't you come over and do this, and I'll pay you to do it. And like, that was really amazing for me at the time. I needed to support my family and stuff like that. But the reason you renovated that bathroom was because you wanted to sell the house and you wanted to get rid of all this stuff. And you quite specifically did not want to buy another house. You wanted to make yourself more free to make decisions as they presented themselves. Like, you were prepping for that sort of spontaneity.
Sure. Yeah. It still doesn't feel like a thing that happened. It just feels like it is.
Yeah.
And I haven't even gone anywhere yet. So
Sure.
maybe it feels that way because it isn't fully that. But it feels real enough to talk about it on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're planning to do it. I don't know. We don't have anything actually planned yet, but we're going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that feels very weird and different from who I used to be, for sure.
That's exciting.
And I think that there's a mindset change in that too, because it wasn't traveling. It wasn't being places that deterred me. I didn't want to be on planes, and I didn't want to have to deal with airports or buses or trains or whatever. Right. And now I don't think about the travel. I think about the places, like the being. So I think it's really a mindset change, thinking about being instead of suffering.
Right. One thing, you're focused on the obstacles, and in the other state of mind, you're focused on what's on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this interesting thing when the transition happens from that's something that other people do to that's something that I do.
I liked when the transition happens.
There's a really good transition word you chose to poorly execute.
Transition? Yeah. It's sort of literarily a word that's useful there.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I put some Orson Scott Card quote on my board for a while at the end of last year, and I really just tried to question a lot of beliefs and replace the ones that sucked. And I think it's in some place in my mind, there was this idea that the world's getting worse, placed by someone somewhere. I don't know. Observationally, it is the best time to be alive. Can't see any reason to think that this is the worst. But I mean, maybe other people do. I also just think, like, to get anything you want in life, you just have to be directionally correct. Just pick the way you know. If you want to travel, just book a train, car, whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
Eventually, you might be a travel vlogger, or you might be a travel agent, or who cares? If you do what you think's cool.
I hope I'm not a travel agent.
I hope not too. Yeah, that would be bad.
It actually sounds like the worst job.
I agree.
Maybe not the worst, but there are not a lot of jobs that sound better or sound worse. I mean,
How much do you know about what a travel agent does?
I know nothing about it except for that they have to deal with people.
Think about it though, is that, you spend so much time, you're like, hey, I want to take a vacation this year. Where do I want to go? I don't know. I got to research all these different places. Oh, that one looks better, but that one looks better in that way. Travel agents do the research. Maybe they just know where they want to go.
Yeah, maybe travel agents on the way to your happy place.
Maybe. Do you believe that they do the research?
I don't know what a travel agent does. I've heard of them before.
I think they're very similar to like a Verizon phone salesman.
Some of those do the research.
I just mean, somebody knows they want something and they go, oh, okay, I'm going to go talk to this person and they'll sell it to me.
Yeah, they do have those companies that you just pay them a fee and they give you a random trip.
No, it's true.
Totally random.
That's interesting.
That sounds fun in a completely free situation for me, meaning I don't have any other variables that I have to deal with while traveling. I'm thinking from a nomadic standpoint.
Oh. Yeah.
Not necessarily like a week-long trip, but
sure.
I'm thinking in like through the lens that I'm currently,
Yeah.
From that standpoint, I would be like, oh, I don't want to go to some random place for 3 months or whatever.
I feel like in that situation, you're kind of guaranteed that it's not going to suck. It's not like, a roulette wheel where it's like, yeah, well, you landed on number 32, and that is actually a really hot place with no resorts. You're going to be sleeping in a tent, and there's no water. You actually have to hike 7 miles to get it.
Yeah.
I think it's a desirable trip.
Randomized to beautiful locations that people like. Yeah.
You're the lucky winner of a 5-day trip to Oklahoma.
I mean, I like Oklahoma.
Which part?
Driving through it. Oh, this is nice. It's Oklahoma. I went.
If you drive
It's
through
better
the
than-
little, if you drive through the little peninsula thing, yeah, it's probably a nice drive.
Panhandle, man.
Panhandle.
Yeah, I think it's better than Kansas. Like if you were coming through Kansas and then you get to Oklahoma, you might be like, all right.
I like to driving through Nebraska as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've never been to Nebraska.
No? What a conundrum.
No, it's not. It's quite clear. I've just never been there.
Would you like me to book you a trip?
Can you do it like randomly?
I almost died in Wyoming once.
Oh. I've almost died a few places, but what happened to you in Wyoming?
I can't share that.
It's a weird thing to bring up and then not talk about.
I know. It is. I agree, but I can't share that story.
Gotcha.
Contraband type of story.
Now I'm even more intrigued.
You could Google the statute of limitations real quick.
It has not passed.
Fair enough.
I rarely need to Google the statute of limitations for things.
Have you always aware? Is there like a light bulb that goes off? Today's the day. I can start talking about this.
No, not like timeline wise. Just like if someone's like, what's the statute of limitations for assault in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
I know that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Fair enough.
Do you?
What about in Wyoming?
I do not.
In Wyoming, it's probably 10 years, but I don't know. You can check. I can check.
But for your thing.
Oh, there's no. It's a minor thing.
It's something people do all the time. They're just not supposed to do it in public.
That is wrong. In Wyoming, there is no statute of limitations for criminal prosecution. Put another way, you can be prosecuted at any time for committing any crime, no matter how far back it was. This makes the state extremely unique compared to other states, and therefore, I may not share what happened in Wyoming.
Why did you do the thing in that state?
What do you mean?
Why didn't you do it in a state where you could tell us?
I'm sorry.
Man.
What happens in
Actually,
Wyoming
in
stays in
fact-
Wyoming.
Because it could have only happened in Wyoming. It wasn't a situation.
Well, this is getting very interesting. He
Let me-
stepped right on top of Old Faithful.
Things
It wasn't-
that can only happen.
This is like that game Guess Who, where you're just like, does it wear glasses? Does he have facial hair?
There's 5 bizarre stories that can only happen in Wyoming. If one of
there's
these
more
is
than
your
5.
story,
No, it's not it. I know.
Did you read that article?
No. As someone who's driven all over the United States, there's only one state I've encountered this situation in, and it's Wyoming.
Mm.
Also, I should be clear, this wasn't a crime. It was just a driving situation that I encountered that I really didn't like.
Casper teen arrested after spinning cookies on frozen river.
Oh, that's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was driving along and saw a frozen river.
I thought I got some cookies in the back.
Yeah, that's it. You got me.
Got me. Like right now, Frank is the
You're
one who's
listening
done
to
it
an
in
Origins
Wyoming.
episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast.
But we could
These
become
episodes
the
we're
people
learning. We don't know what we're doing
who do
yet,
it in
and sometimes
Wyoming. Can you play that and then say what you did while it's playing? So what it was
Yeah, I could,
Knew it.
but I won't.
it was late in the night of February 15th. Can you do that like right after I say it? I'll do it again. It was late in the middle of the night on February 15th. When all of a sudden,
I don't understand why we only have transition 2 and 5.
it's one of the great mysteries of this podcast.
All right, are we done with this thing?
Yeah, I got nothing really.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Hey, it's Frank again. Thanks for listening to an Origins episode of the Unbecoming Platypus podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on future episodes. You can also check us out online at theunbecomingplatypus.com. We hope these conversations inspire you to improve your communication skills and deepen your connections with your own friends and loved ones. Until next time, this has been the Unbecoming Platypus podcast.